Welcome back, boys. It is me, random internet person, back with the F-14A, my favorite airplane, and I think probably my favorite module in DCS. And part of the reason is, I, during the last sale, got the Nevada Test and Training Range, specifically for the Zone 5 campaign for the F-14A, by Reflected Simulations, who's an absolute legend. This is actually one of his skins. But pretty much all I've been doing recently is flying warbirds, so I'm going to give myself an easy mission here to remember how to fly this guy. As you can see, we've got no arms, no fuel stores or anything like that. We just got these two guys, GPU, air start unit there, and we're at an international airport, Ally in the Persian Gulf, and we're going to fly to Tomb Air Force Base, and then we're going to rearm, and we're going to assume a cap position, or a BARCAP position, on the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to be doing only TACAN navigation, and I'll be talking about that once we get it started up here in a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my ground electric power.
Chief, turn on the ground power. Copy.
Anti-collision lights, master light switch on.
Ground power is now on.
We've got power. Is the light on? Oh yeah, she's working. They know we're about to start up here. Ground crew, ground air supply, connect.
Chief, connect ground air supply.
Some lights test here.
Copy. Ground air supply is now connected.
Sounded good, thanks guys. It's hard to see that in the daylight. And instruments. She working. Gisa Nyong, Orema. Gisa is back indeed. I'm back too. We're all back here. ICS and radio there.
Okay.
Let's
ICS
go.
comm check.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. 5x5 there, champ.
All right, man.
Kind of hot like that one, didn't he?
I'm closing the canopy.
Good for you.
All right, let's start.
Oh, the tit's coming up. There we go. Generator lights off. We can disconnect the ground power. Ground electric power. Bye.
Chief, turn off the ground power. Copy.
And engine numero uno. Like the helmets in here. Looking good, bud. %. Go ahead and throw some juice. So we don't have any GPS coordinates loaded. I think our initial leg is going to be like 100 and something miles to Tomb Air Force Base. And the cool thing about DCS is that we can throw in portable TACAN, man-portable TACAN stations. We can put them wherever we want to, whatever channels that we want. So that's how we're going to be navigating. That's how we're going to be conducting our BARCAP today. There is no GPS. GPS is for casuals. So I think TACAN frequency is 77 X-ray. So we're going to go 7, 7. It's X-ray, transmit, receive. Now those are line of sight only. So we're probably not going to be able to pick it up so we get in the air, which is fine. 2 good starts. Left gen's off. Let's go. Left engine bleed. Right bleed. Both. And we'll disconnect the ground air supply. See ya.
Chief, disconnect ground air supply.
Let's do a full fine.
Roger.
Uncage. And radar altitude. 500. Not sure what the wing clearance is here, so we'll wait to get those swept out. Master reset. Looking good. What am I missing? Oxygen's on. Radios, TACAN. A little bit of trim. So if you guys have played civil flight simulators, more than likely you're familiar with VORs, which stands for VHF, or Very High Frequency Omnidirectional Range, and TACANs, the military kind of equivalent of that. Difference is they're a little bit more accurate, and the range is pretty extended. So for VORs, the maximum range for the high altitude VORs, which is the largest service volume, from 18,000 feet to 60,000 feet, is about 130 nautical miles. And with TACANs, I think that they can go up to 390 nautical miles, which is insane. So basically, as long as your line of sight, clouds don't matter. So line of sight, terrain, building, and stuff like that with the station, then you're going to receive the signal. And there's a couple of ways that we can do that in the F-14. Number one, we've got the RMI, the radio magnetic indicator. Once we're airborne and it's receiving the signal from the TACAN, that's going to point towards the station. So all we're going to do is fly that for an inbound bearing. We can help that, or use that to help us figure out our position in relation to the TACAN. I'm going to get our nose wheel steering on. Just like VORs, the way that you can imagine this is the station is the hub of a bicycle wheel. And all of the individual spokes, there are 360 spokes that extend outwards from the station. Those are the radials. So the north position, so 360 or 0 degrees, is that radial, right? The south radial is the 180 radial. And when we're flying a radial, that's different from our inbound bearing. So what we're going to do, we're going to get airborne, we're going to tune the station, and make sure that we got the station tuned. We're going to give us a course so that our deflection on the HSI...
ready to taxi.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take the parking brakes off. Boys, we'll see you later. So we're going to tune the frequency, which we already got in the computer, and then we're going to center the HSI so there's no deflection on our line. And that's going to give us an inbound bearing to the station. And like I said, we could just fly the RMI needle too. We can just point the airplane in that direction. Either one of those works. But down here on the HSI, so we're going to go to TACAN. The reciprocal of your inbound bearing coming from this direction is going to be which radial you're on. So let's say that our inbound bearing is 330. So the radial that we're going to be on is going to be roughly, what, 150 degrees? So the 150 radial. It'll make a little bit more sense when you can actually play with the TACAN in the air. And then to assume our BARCAP position, it's going to be using the radials as well, plus DME. And if you're into civilian aviation, you probably have seen some TACANs on sectional charts too. They're often VORs that are coupled with TACANs in the US. And although we can't use TACANs to navigate, they do give us the DME information to the station. Let's get those wings working. Master reset, auto, and pretty much with these long runways, I'm just going to use the maneuver flaps for takeoff. It's more than enough. Go ahead and guess on a course here. Like I said, it's probably going to be around 330-ish. runway 1, departure end. Shouldn't be 2 numbers on that. Hold shore. Let's do checkoffs here. Let's go brakes. Make sure also we've got our anti-skid on both. And hook bypass on field. Go brakes, fuel, checked, 12.6. No externals, canopies, locked, seats armed. Stability augmentation is on. Trim is set, wing set, flap set, controls. Free and correct. And harness locked, I guess. Let's go. It's good we get to practice a little navigation and do a little cloud surfing in the F-14, which is pretty sweet. Lined up, gonna turn off the nose wheel steering.
You're way too fast.
Excuse me, did you say we're
Man,
too
the
fast?
CEO will bust your balls for that.
140, rotate, see ya. Just like a rocket ship with no weapons or fuel tanks or anything. There we go, just picked up the TACAN, 118 miles. We'll go ahead and put it on the RMI needle, so we're going to line up that little white triangle, our lubber line there at the top with the TACAN on the RMI needle. And so now we are tracking station. Go ahead and switch this to nav mode. What we're going to do, this will give us a bearing here. So if we line this up so there's no deflection on our HSI, so right there. So you can see this would be our inbound bearing to the station, so about 350 degrees, and then we are on this radial, which is, so south is right there, so 170 radial. Now if you wanted to, so you could use this almost like an approach thing, which we can do. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, the runway there is, I actually don't know, I want to say it's like 13. No way. I don't know what it is. 010 maybe. So you could set the course of the runway, and then you could use that to intercept the reciprocal radial for a final approach if you were in IMC or something. Freaking sweet. Go to like 20,000. Alright, Alright, so let's say, for example, the inbound, or the runway heading that we're landing is 0, I don't know what it is, 010. So this would be the approach course for the runway, and you can see we've got a deflection to the left. So if I wanted to, let's swing the airplane to the left about 10 degrees. Fly about a 340 heading. You can imagine, so let's say you were in IMC, you could use this to help you get onto the ground if you knew that the TACAN, or whatever frequency that you were tuned to for navigation, was lined up with the runway. So this is basically the runway heading, and we're going to fly our current heading, so 340, until this deflection on the HSI starts to come down. And once it gets about inside this one notch here, we would start to turn in towards this final bearing, which would line you up with the runway. So we're basically flying to intercept the 190 radial for our runway, if the heading is actually 010, I don't know. We'll find out shortly. Tomcats going fast, looks cool. Also, with no stores or anything, man, we are flying right now. Let's see what our ground speed is. Ground speed 555. And the A has legs when she's not loaded down with stuff. Also did a couple of computer upgrades, increased my RAM, so things seem to run a lot better, and then got a new internal SSD. So put Microsoft Flight Simulator back on there, and honestly, the clouds in DCS look better than they do in Flight Simulator 2020 now. Take that, nerds. Also, no F-14s in 2020. That's a huge tick against the game. We're doing 73 miles. So good rule of thumb, particularly for us, we can dive and drive if we need to. 3 nautical miles per 1,000 feet, so we're at 20 nautical miles, so about 60 miles we can start a slow descent. That is cool. Dubai. Also, I've had Syria for a few months, and it just ran like trash with 16 gigabytes of RAM, and now I can actually play it, so I'll probably be seeing that soon on a few streams. And I've got a few placeholder missions already for the Hind when that comes out, so I'm just going to swap the Huey for the Hind. Been getting some helicopter practice in there, super pumped. I was really hoping it'd be out in April, but I mean, here we are now. Geez, like coming up on the halfway point of May, well out of Q1. Who knows when that's going to come out. Some of the posts that I saw on Instagram from Eagle Dynamics made it seem like, too, that a lot of the things that they're working with in Petrovich AI are still in the works. So, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of optimism that it's going to be out anytime soon. Unfortunately, for all you rotor heads. pull a little power and point the nose down a smidge. Give me some gas. If anyone from Eagle Dynamics is watching, please give us the height. DCS looking good. Deflection's coming down, so like I said on the HSI, we're assuming that the runway heading is about 010, so I'm going to go ahead and start turning on course, kind of start to point us towards the RMI needle there, and hopefully when we come out of this, we'll be lined up on a 50-mile final for our runway. Damn, with no drag or anything, we're close to the speed of sound, and I'm at probably about 85% RPMs here. There it is. Yeah, we're probably way off on the runway heading there. That's fine, we're visual now. Switch this over to our landing. And 20 miles, we'll start to slow her down. Don't need to be going 500 knots. Speed brake's thinking about coming out back there. Still going a little too fast. There it goes. I'm not sure what the actual protocol is, but I've seen a ton of pictures of F-14s landing with the speed brake, so we'll give her a go. The 020 looks a little probably closer to what it actually is. Coming up on 250. Gear. And flaps. Gear down, 3 green, no reds. What's up, Melon? How's it going?
Retard.
Landed here to rearm and refuel, and then we're gonna go do a little BARCAP and hopefully kill some commies. I just got the Zone 5 campaign, but I haven't really flown the F-14 in a while, so gotta re-familiarize myself. Damn right. Although I still think the Phoenix feels like it's broken.
400.
I did fly it earlier in 2.7, and it still felt like it wasn't really like tracking targets very well, but we'll see. OP, certainly, but well, we'll see what happens today. Last time I said, I tried to use it, it just felt like none of it was tracking. Swing a Yui. Not accurate to IRL in what way? That it probably actually didn't hit targets very well in real life. Well, we'll see. Not expecting too much in the way of a fight. They're just MiG-21s, I think, with heaters. What's up, dudes? Oh yeah, she's a chonk. It is crazy to think, though. I mean, so it might not have been that accurate. It certainly wasn't that maneuverable, but you could launch a 1,000-pound missile at least 50 miles. It wasn't really made for fighters, I guess. Probably more so for the Tu-95s and whatever other Soviet bomber threats they had at the time. All right, porking brake. Ground crew, F8. Let's go. I'm gonna get some AIM-9s on the outer pylons. I need to save this thing. AIM-7, Mike Hotel. Some fuel boys. And we'll do the Mark 60s. Flare, we'll bump those up since I know these guys don't have any IR stuff. Gun ammo, fuel, let's go.
Request refueling. Request rearming. Copy.
We gotta wait for him to put in freaking 6,000 pounds of gas. What's up, dudes? When you're ready, assume BARCAP position north and south between the 080 radial and 65 DME to the 060 radial. So what we're going to do, we're going to be outbound, which is fine. So 080 is our course. We're going to stay on this until 65 DME, then we're going to turn north and set the course to 060 until that deflection comes down, and we're just going to go back and forth between the 080 radial and the 060 radial. Again, no GPS. GPS is for casuals. Switch that to takeoff. Fuel truck go. Buddy, taking a detour out there. Oh, I forgot I had a coffee. There we go. You had to throw in some ground crew for the immersion. Some nerdy immersion shit. Alright, so the TACAN, we should be able to see it here. No, I put it around here somewhere. There it is, that's the TACAN. So everything, you can imagine just little spokes, 360 spokes coming out for every single degree. Like I said, we're going to be doing, our BARCAP is going to start on the 080 radial at 65 DME. So basically what I've done with our HSI down here is set the 080 radial, because we're going to be outbound northeast of the station. So that's our radial that we're going to be on. And we're going to take off, we'll turn a little bit south to intercept the radial. We're going to fly outbound on that course until we get to 65 DME. Then we're going to turn straight north. And we're just going to bounce back and forth between those two radials.
Complete.
Go. Got some gas. Hell yeah. looking good. I always thought the Tomcat looks kind of weird without the drop tanks. Park and brake. Nose wheel steering's still on. Let's go. Thanks for your help. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be back. If I get smoked by 2 MiG-21s with heaters, I'm going to be pissed. Just uninstall DCS. There's a little TACAN right there. Well, look, we got the range on them. I don't know what distance they're going to pop up on us, but get them defensive with the Mavericks. Get in there for the knife kills, you know what I'm saying? And not super heavy. I only took 2 Phoenixes instead of 4 or 6. Still got plenty of thrust in the F-14, even the A. .03. We were in the ballpark. Now we need to think of an equivalent name for the Phoenixes instead of Spam Ram for the AIM Rams. Alright, nose wheel steering. Double check. Our maneuver flaps are set. Anti-skid is on both. Hook bypass on field. You get a missile, and you get a missile. Look at that beauty. 140. Go to nav mode. So now we're going to turn a little bit to the south, or I guess south of our radial. We're going to re-intercept that, and we'll fly that course outbound to 65 DME. And that'll be the beginning of the BARCAP. Let's go ahead and get Sidewinder cool and missile prep on. Yeah, apparently Heebler is working on a new, more accurate looking afterburner effect, which is going to be pretty neat. But yeah, I love the A. And you can hear each of the zones of afterburner kicking in too. And we'll go to 15,000. So our range is increasing. Again, we're looking for 65 DME, so there's 6. And you can see the deflection now coming down on the HSI. In the B, on the carrier, yes. In the A, they used afterburner because I think The reason was the nacelles for the engines were so far offset. If you had a huge thrust discrepancy, if you had an engine flame out, it would cause a whole bunch of yaw, which could cause you to flat spin or just to lose control of the airplane. But the F-14A in Zone 5 afterburner was like the equivalent of full mill power on the F-14B, so they didn't need the afterburners for the carrier takeoff on the B, but on the A, they do. That's why in the movie Top Gun, which was F-14As, they had the cool afterburner shots on the carrier. So now you can see we've got 0 deflection on the HSIs. That means we're on the 080 radial. That's our outbound bearing. And if we start to get some deflection, it's because of crosswind, so we'll add a little bit of a wind correction angle depending on which way that starts to move. Yeah, I mean, they would light them obviously first before, you know, they launch the airplane. To me, though, part of the reason that I like the A, I wouldn't say more than the B, but it's just, to me, it's iconic. Those nacelles and the nozzles. Because that was what was in Top Gun, you know what I mean? That's what everybody is kind of familiar with. Oh, let's do this. Let's go data link, set host, overlord,
Sure.
and tune radio TAC. Overlord.
Roger.
So it's deflecting now a little bit to the left, so we're going to give it a little bit of left wind correction angle. So the nose just left of that radial. What up, Become Dust? Coming up on 15, and actually let's go above these clouds. Cloud icing, definitely a thing, and DCS. I think that it's warm or cool enough to actually need anti-ice, but I think it's set to auto. Anyway, yeah, anti-ice is on auto. No, but I was playing around with a couple of guys the other day, and it was like a winter map. Temperatures well below freezing, and you do get ice if you're in the clouds. It's not visually modeled, but you do get inlet ice, probe icing. Here we go, holding our radial 23 DME, so we got about 40 miles to go. We'll level off here. No, because the first indication was inlet icing, so you get like a warning on your ICS panel. Or the annunciator panel. Just turn the anti-ice on. Hell yeah, dude. High AF. A lot slower now with all this drag. Jeez. Shit, I wish. That's why I'm here. I'm not working today. Kinda. I mean, when the weather's crappy, I don't make any money, you know? But the student that I had first this morning was supposed to be ground school, and I don't know if you saw those pictures that I posted over on the DCS Sweat Lodge Discord, but this student canceled on me on Friday, and he had basically a car that Kool-Aid Man through his freaking front door. It drove into his house. So obviously he's got a lot of things that he's got on his plate to deal with. Alright, 40, we're just passing 41 DME, so about 20 to go, 25. Now we're picking up some speed. So it seems like we're holding that radial pretty good, and I've got us kind of in our autopilot mode, so I'm going to go ahead and set this to the 060 radial. So now you can see that deflection right there, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to ride this to 065 DME, then we're going to turn directly north until this deflection comes back down, and that means we're going to be intercepting the 060 radial, and we're just going to turn back and forth between those two, north and south, doing our BARCAP. This is the northern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, Iran. We can probably see some of the coast through there, and all that is Iran up that direction. And we'll start our turn a couple miles to the west here. So about 63, we'll start that turn north. Let's go. There's 0 degrees on a north heading now, and we're just going to go back and forth between these two radials. So now all I'm doing is waiting for the deflection on our 060 radial to come down, and once we intercept that, we'll turn back to the south. Hell yeah, brother. Deflection's starting to come down on the HSI there. And just to avoid going too close to Iran, we will start that turn a little early. we go. Coming up on the 060 radial. So I'm going to go ahead and set us back to 080. And we'll start our turn to the south.
Nine 68 miles. Angels 21. I'm showing nails 10 o'clock. You got about
10,000. We get down so we hopefully get a better radar picture. Not getting a whole bunch of ground bleed through. I want to get these missiles out on these guys as fast as possible because the AWACS is somewhere over there, probably 30 miles. And I know one of these guys is going to go for them.
Oh, I got
Looks like they're already splitting off.
12 o'clock.
As soon as I can get a lock on both, I'm going to shoot at both. We'll just keep tracking it. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
There is a Bandit 2 ship, Bra, 130, 35 miles.
Alrighty. Murder time, boys. Actually looking pretty good right now. So they're about 30 miles, what does that say? 30.2. Let's see if either of these hits. I've got no luck recently with the Phoenix. Yeah, this aspect is probably kind of bad. Alright, give me a single target track.
He's locked. Target, 16 miles. I lost lock.
You son of a bitch. Oh, I killed him. Hell yeah. Alright, so that's one good Phoenix. I think this one probably missed. He's flanking. Lock him up, dude. You just see the AWACS now in the upper corner there. Inside 20. Let me see if I can get him with PAL. Come on, Jester, do your job.
Roger.
Alright, back to PAL mode. Jester's not doing anything back there, he's just along for a joyride, you freaking cunt. Now he looks like he's cold, he's tracking away. Sometimes it helps if you roll it sideways. You get vertical scan. Nothing. He's definitely going for that AWACS. He's above us, 24,000. Yeah, he's definitely going for the AWACS. In fact, I think I see him.
It's a friendly.
There we go. There we go.
That's a E3. Target 12 miles.
He's going after the E3. The E3 is the one that's on the camera, but I've got the MiG locked. Be inside of 10. Fox 1.
Nails on our nose. 12 o'clock. One of ours is going down.
Oh man, he shot him down. Well, at least we'll get some vengeance here.
Target 3 miles. Splash.
Oh, I got him. We lost our AWACS though.
That's a fish bed.
It
Get
was.
ready. 580 knots.
Resume BARCAP.
Okay, there's 530. We're at 500 knots.
And speed. I mean, it's one of the things, sometimes it feels like in a fighter jet, even though you're going right now near 500 knots, just because the ground's relatively far away, it kind of feels like you're going slow, but when you actually have clouds out the window that you can judge that against, it feels like you're going a lot faster. Retrim it here for our weapons discrepancy. Oh yeah, I got her installed, bud. Took freaking forever, 170 gigabytes, jeez. On Saturday I had like family in town for Mother's Day, you know? So I kept going up and down. I was moving everything around between hard drives. And then the last thing that I did for the day was to reinstall 2020, and it probably took like, I don't know, 4 hours. Bring us back to the east here to get us closer to that 65 DME. And we're coming up on the 080 radial. That deflection's coming down now. SDK swapping hell. Fortunately, all the hard work is done now, so I can reap the rewards. Coming up on 080, so we'll switch this back to 060. And we'll turn north. Good enough. What are you using it for? To manage all the stuff for your cockpit? And how's that coming, by the way? What do you mean the FS 2020, the SDK? What's different about that than other ones? And are you going to be able to switch back and forth easily between sims, or is it going to take a lot of reconfiguration to get that to work? F-14s inbound to sim BARCAP. You can RTB. We will do that. So right now we're set up on the 060 radio. You can see that deflection that's coming down right now. This is our outbound. This is a course that we have set. So 060, and this is showing the direction to the station. So if I turn now towards the station without changing my bearing, we're going to have what's called reverse sensing. So let's go ahead and get us an inbound bearing. I already know what it is. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll go 030, that's the runway course, and we'll set up for a wide right base. I want the station on the right of the nose.
Got a friendly raw 220, 17 miles, Angels 15.
220, 17 miles, somewhere out here. I see him. Those are our Tomcat friends. Oh, so you're gonna have like, are you gonna have individual instruments for each one? I doubt it. I mean, probably, I would assume that most of it is functionality for the MFDs, not really for individual instruments. 40 miles, and we'll start to descend here. A functional MCP so you can get back into those two blinders you love so much. Speaking of two blinders, I am really excited about the MD-11, the Rotate MD-11. Negative. X-plane. Might get ported eventually to 2020. I mean, right, like I said, I was playing around with FS 2020 a little bit yesterday. I don't know what the CRJ is like exactly, but there's just not the full functionality for instrument flying. It seems kind of pointless. I'm not going to VFR fly a CRJ. Also, clouds in DCS actually look better. Wish the freaking Hind would come out though, jeez. Taking their sweet time on that one. They do, but you know, when you're in them for the IMC stuff, it is pretty cool. Although they've both got a good transition from IMC to VMC. Either way, good job in both cases. I know that they're IFR capable, so are the other ones, but I mean, the point is, like, you've got a programmable FMC, but I mean, there's limitations to it. Like, for example, for the citation that's in the game already, like, there's a mod for it that makes it kind of like the Zebo, and everything's fine unless you have to go missed. You can't do a missed approach. Right, there you go. And I've already talked about this too, like with the default airplanes, it would be nice if the Sobo made the functionality that it's intended to have for the GPS stuff, because like I said, a lot of the airplanes that I fly at work have the Garmin 430s, and I mean, when I first got back into those, because I was used to the 375s, I was like, what the hell is going on here? And reinstalled X-Plane, played around with it for a little while, and then got back to my proficiency level with those GPS. Well, you should hand fly it anyway, right? Starting slowing her down here, that's us. By the way, Captain McGingerbeard, if you're out there watching, get the F-14, and I will learn how to, well, I'll relearn how to do the Rio scene for you. The CRJ. mean, they look great. They fly okay. That's something DCS should do is change the default aircraft or give like an overhaul or something, because getting into there with like the SU-25 doesn't have a clickable cockpit or anything. When I first installed DCS, I was like, this kind of sucks. I'm not arguing that. I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm just saying from my perspective, it's obviously fully fleshed out. And yeah, when a Sobo gets there, that'll be great. It's obviously a better flight simulator in terms of, aesthetics and stuff like that. You could do a lot of things that X-Plane can't with the weather system, but at the same time, I'm using X-Plane as a tool more than for fun. $250. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the stream has been about. I think one of the cool things about this is now we can put in man-portable TACAN systems, which is how I've done the navigating in this. Let me concentrate here for a second. The nav aids on the Persian Gulf map, not the most fleshed out. There are some there, but the primary way that you would navigate in here without GPS or the coordinates stored in there from the Rio is from the TACAN. So as long as you've got a TACAN frequency that you can tune, you can pretty much figure out where they are, because the range, as long as you have line of sight, is like 300 and something nautical miles, which is pretty much bigger than the maps are going to allow. Gone missed.
300. 200. 100.
Kind of missed that center line there, though. The best way to use the TACANs for navigation, I guess, is to visualize your relation to them based on the radials. And like I was saying earlier, the TACAN itself is like the hub of a wheel, and all of the radials, which are your degrees here in the course that we can play with, those are the spokes of the wheel. So you can kind of figure out where you're at in relation to the station, which I'll show you in just 1 second. Negative, I'm flying. Unable to copy. 731 November Romeo. So I do like that you can put your tail number on whatever plane that you get in FS 2020, because I always make it his tail number now, because that guy's just a legend. If I have room to swing it around with our fuel boys here. Alright, so the TACAN is behind us over this direction. You can actually see it right there. So we wanted to figure out a bearing to the station. All we would do is make sure that our arrows are lined up. So right now this is indicating the direction to the station. You can see our bearing is the same. So now they're lined up, right? So I know that our course, if we fly 137, is going to take us to the station, and if this was indicating something, it would show that our range from the station. Alternatively, if you wanted to figure out another radial that you're on in relation to it, for example, in this situation. So now it's lined up. This is indicating the direction to the station. This is indicating the bearing, right? So we're going away from the station, which is 317 degrees, and the direction to the station is here. So if we're flying to the northwest, we would know that the station is to the southwest of us. And the way that I was doing that BARCAP, for example, is we just set an outbound radial to 080. So we take off. Obviously, this is showing the deflection of the radial. So from our relative position, the radial is to the right of the aircraft. So we turn, get on this heading. I flew about a 090 heading just to get us back on the radial, and then outbound 080 with a little bit of wind correction to 65 DME. So once we hit 65 DME on this radial, like that spoke of the bicycle tire, then I just turned straight north, reset this to 060 until the deflection came back down. So that's us intercepting the 060 radial or the 060 spoke, and I just went back and forth north and south between those two. So personally, I think it's easier to fly TACANs than it is to fly the GPS, because I don't have to use gesture to select the next nav waypoint, and I don't have to remember what the nav waypoint is based on the mission editor or anything like that. I can just do it myself. Hope that makes sense. TACANs, VOR navigation, and that kind of stuff is... once you get it, it clicks, it's easy, but when someone's kind of explaining it to you, it's difficult. And I know doing that lesson in real life about VORs to students, and I'm like, do you understand it? Like, kinda? You know what I mean? TACAN radio frequencies are either going to be in the briefing. Some of them will be listed, so let's actually take a look at this. So here's Tomb Kochak has a TACAN station, channel 89. So what I could do, we'll actually tune that one up real quick. Let me turn this back on, transmitter save. So 89, if a channel... so there's 89. If it's not listed X-ray or Yankee, it's generally X-ray. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get it because we're on the ground in their line of sight, but alright, so we are getting it. Let me turn back on our... so now it's 9 miles, and if I wanted to figure out a relative bearing to the station, I'd point towards it, over that way. So now you can see that the direction to the station is indicating this way, our bearing is indicating that way, and we're just going to line it up. So I would fly a 265 degree heading for 9 miles to intercept, or to fly to that station. Yeah, Y is usually for airborne, so if you have a tanker, for example, those have TACAN frequencies as well. And those are usually Yankee. Let's see if I can find another one. So this is a VOR DME. This is kind of for civilian aircraft, but they operate the exact same way, just they're a little bit less accurate than TACANs are. So here's another one. This is a VORTAC KIH. We'll see if we can tune that one. So it's channel 112. So 1, 1, 2. And we might not be able to pick that one up because it's, yeah, it's off. So it's line of sight. There might be buildings or terrain in between us and that particular station. But that's kind of the gist of how you do it. If you got more questions about it, I'm more than happy. You can just jump in the Discord and ask me a question about that kind of stuff whenever you want to. I'm more than happy to talk about airplane nerd stuff all day long. Get our wing into oversweep here. Welcome, Roadster. Thanks for the follow, dude. Oversweep. The easiest way that I can think to visualize those things is, like I said, the TACAN station itself is the hub of the wheel, and the radials are the spokes. And all you're doing is finding which spoke you're on, and you can fly those spokes navigationally. You can do it for landing, like if you know that one of those is lined up with the runway. So down here on the Tomcat, this is our TACAN receiver. So right now it's in the off position. If we wanted to use it, the inner wheel we can rotate for this knob. The outer two numbers we can use the other one. So the TACAN frequency that I had originally was 77. So I go 07, 7. So now we got TACAN 77. We're on channel X-ray, so 77 X-ray. Then switch to transmit receive, TR. And then, so your RMI, your radio magnetic indicator, is just going to point to the station. And then down here on our tactical information display, I can switch this to the HSI, and we can use our cursor, or the course knob here, to select which radial that we want to play with. But this is always going to indicate direction to the station. So it makes it easy to visualize kind of where you're at in that regard. Does that make sense? Maybe. The outer wheel, there is a tiny click spot right here on the edge of it. And then the inner click spot is for the inner wheel. And if we were doing air-to-air, so if we had a Yankee frequency that was air-to-air, then instead of transmit-receive, I would go to air-to-air mode. And it works exactly the same way as it does for the ground stations, but it's going to pick up that air-to-air TACAN instead. TACAN's dog. So the children of the magenta line, they get too used to the GPS, man. You gotta get in here and fly old school airplanes. And it's the same thing with like the F-5E too. The F-5E has only a TACAN. That's the only way that you can navigate. Look at that beauty. Yeah, it's a lot smaller click spot. Hell yeah, VORs, VOR DME. I'll show you some other things. So this one, this is the TACAN symbol, and we have them in the United States too on our sectionals because we use that DME. The difference between these little outer knobby things would be black, and that's a VOR-TAC. So it's a VOR, and we're getting the DME information from the TACAN. We can't actually use the TACAN and navigate. So then over here is a VOR DME, which is the octagon with a square around it. And then if it was just a VOR with no DME information, it would just be that octagon. And that's actually probably the physical VOR station right there, which are modeled in the game, which is pretty cool. See if I can find one that's just a VOR. And if you got the nav radio receiver, like for example with the Huey, you can use the nav radio. You can actually fly the VORs and stuff like that, which is how you navigate. But I don't think that the F-14, we can tune those in navigationally. So this is a VOR-TAC. So this is a civilian mixed with a military. The ones that don't have those black colored sections are just TACANs. So another VOR DME there. VOR DME. TACAN. VOR DME. TACAN. And again, like I said, you can go into the mission editor now and you can place a TACAN wherever you want, and you can set the channels yourself. So if you wanted to do a more complex navigation, there's a couple ways that you could do it. So I've got a TACAN that we placed here, and like I said, the range is about 390 nautical miles as long as you have line of sight. So let's say you're going somewhere in the mountains over here, you could place another TACAN, so once you lost visual range or line of sight with this TACAN frequency, you'd have another one that you could pick up here. VOR DME, VOR DME, VOR DME, VOR DME, TACAN. So tons of navigational aids on the map. Anyway, if you guys have any more questions about navigation or any of that stuff, hit me up on the Discord. Melon, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the hosts. Play some FS 2020 later if you're around. Boys, we love ya. We'll see you next time. Peace.